Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This is a series that consists of spewing out assorted thoughts which arose from somebody who thinks too much, taking in, and generally loving various entertainment media by the boatload. These tidbits may be mini theories, observations, or simply jokes. Hopefully people will find them entertaining or at least interesting. And who knows, maybe they'll lead to others looking at what amuses them in different ways than before. Also, bear in mind that everything blabbed about in these videos comes from the perspective of somebody who's experienced every main story bit connected with whatever works currently being gone over. So spoilers are a definite. However, other works set in a shared continuity will typically solely be referenced in a way that only makes sense to anybody who's also experienced those ones fully up until their same time occurring points. Sort of a coded nod kind of deal. So, while things will be more fun for viewers who've indulged with an entire universe's works, nobody who has yet to do so will get non-experienced events spoiled. Now, with all of that out of the way, here we go. Bowser may have decided to invade several smaller and less fortified countries after failing at his takeover of the relatively vast Mushroom Kingdom 2 times in a row. Most likely, the game's events were initially truly just a play, used to showcase sewage-stifling savior skills via cardboard enemy obliteration and dramatically arranged obstacle maneuvering. That's why there are so many platforms laid out in a somewhat chaotic manner compared to the first couple Super Mario Bros. Games. Everything that's encountered is meant to show off the sibling duo's magnificence, not prevent Toad from reclaiming their homeland and saving a beloved monarch. Bowser probably decided to actually invade those tiny Toad territories during the Plumber's pond-preferring pest-pounding performance because everybody would be quite off guard. And as a bonus, he'd have plenty of perfectly stealable traps just waiting around for him. The musical blocks don't really make any lovely or even particularly not regular construction material type sounds during their debut here. This is likely because the Toads meant to develop the bouncy little deals into true tune transmitting tiles, but couldn't finish their work before Bowser's Bladed Boat Battalion brought forth circumstances that made emergency evacuations essential. Mario and Luigi's color scheme change is probably the result of wardrobe making a mistake after receiving outfit descriptions from an employed Toad that only ever saw them in an illumination-deprived, not princess-containing castle. They stuck with the blue overalls and hat plus shirt being trademark hue combo in basically every subsequent Scarlet Scalp Sorcerer stomping session because of positive audience reception. The assorted Boom Boom's reason for remaining stationary a bit before attacking the drain-defending duo could very well be that they were stunt performers meant to act as stand-ins for Bowser, thus each of them are merely waiting for their cues. This example of physical performers periodically punishing plumbers doesn't even require for King Koopa to actually enlist their help as official order obliterating officers for his plan's completion, as he could merely threaten some production-involved Toads into stating that rewrites took place, which would easily grant him some tank-tucked tusslers. The angry son might be mad at Mario/Luigi because he's an actor who was told his role would make him a star for sure. When things wound up being a fair bit different than his mental picture, he decided to lash out at the actual leads whose presence remind him of what it feels like when an unrestrained dream crushing happens. Mario and Luigi now regularly pick up and throw things such as shells, despite apparently not being able to do so in their first 2 above average ability advertising adventures because they were wearing their original work outfits back then, which were already a bit worn and torn. After proving their worth as shell scoundrel slaying saviors, they would have been rewarded with magically reinforced garments that can't ever rip no matter how many wild pipe malfunctions or flashy block tosses occur. Boomerang-wielding Koopa Bros are likely present in the early levels instead of their smash-savoring siblings because the theater-treasuring Toads truly believed that a new weapon would make for better scenes. Hammers come back in near the end of this plumber prowess portraying production because there weren't enough V-shaped throwing sticks ordered for its finale. Thus, they had to settle on just using leftover tools as commonly considered cool climax-creating components. Chain chomps could easily just be a relatively common type of pet that was gathered en masse, or the Mushroom World's mustache mite modeling may be musical. Bowser probably decided to regularly employ the things as troops in his army after this thrilling theater thrashing because he developed an intense fondness for them after several feeding sessions that were followed by playing fetch with recorders or whatever. Mario and Luigi perform a somersault with a star in this game because they learned gymnastics to make the show more impressive, but they are not comfortable enough with their new skill to try it while not invincible. They don't get that good at it until the 3D games. Luigi isn't able to be selected in a single-player game because he is literally an understudy in this production and thus only gets called upon when Mario becomes noticeably less than super. World 4 only has 6 numbered levels because its sets and props are so much bigger than those showcased by the other areas. The magic wands, wielded by the Kings and Koopalings, are likely either new weapons created to prevent additional anatomical architecture atrocities, or ancient artifacts sought out for that very same purpose. Mystical mushroom monarchs may have had their typicality tinkering trinkets on hand during the popular People Protector patented power parading play in order to spice things up by applying audience-arranged awesomeness. It would be quite difficult to sufficiently portray each nation's adventure and excitement showcasing potential to the best possible degree without input from natives after all, but full-on, whole world involving script writing isn't really that feasible, so giving their representatives a chance at some special effects-based improv gets implemented as an exciting compromise. On a related note, the Boo species introduction during this game could very well be because all those fallen Foundation form-flung folks from SMB 1 and 2 crossed over from Mushroom Heaven in order to watch a play about those who avenged their deaths. These stone-stuck, slain shroom soldier specters solely strike upon an averted gaze occurrence because they are reminded of the possibility that their supposed saviors willingly neglected to unblock them. The Flip This Card and That One Too to get a power-up game only features formal family-financed fruit flavor flagged female-freeing fight-furthering fabrications from first and second Super Shroom Society saboteur squashing sequences. This is probably because that pretty power picture picking parts proprietors developed it long before all those new special suits and whatnot got spread throughout Mushroom World to make the play more exciting. There simply wasn't enough time to manufacture new impressiveness installing invention image imparting items and gather prizes matching what they represent before the Bowser battling bros bogus Broadway bonanza began. Some fire-fueled foes face fatalities from flame fragment flinging because their costumes were only developed with visual effect related blaze work in mind, not supernatural shenanigans. Thus, they simply can't handle the heat output dished out by funky flower forge fierceness flaunting folks. World 6's relatively large map may be because it's based on an entire continent rather than just representing a single country. That place being Antarctica, of course. Its many fortresses could normally be utilized as research outposts by the Toad scientists who typically study there when amphibian ability access allowing accessory advertising acts aren't being performed. Those super-sized speedy spheres shot out by cannons on the equally enhanced boats of Sea and Sky in World 8 are likely solely located in that dark deemed domain because they are all prototypes developed while Mushroom World's whale waste wrapped wicked wizard wrought wonderment wrecking was currently going on. These not ready for mass production Plumber annihilators would of course have been put together by bizarrely big baddies Bowser recently recruited from World 4. King Koopa probably had some magic scientists look into laser eye statue supernatural tech after hearing tales of an abnormally agile, azure-adoring assistant who helped Mario and co. crush that other grumpy green giant. The Super Leaf, which can hastily halt any stomping shielded scaly sorcerer servants, was likely created to provide scenes sporting supposedly screwed stylish stash straddled soldiers with those delightful come from behind victory moments audiences often love. That aforementioned amazing tree equivalent of a fingernail changes color a bit across SMB3's different versions. This very well could be because the original play's presentation passed Plumber protected puny people's peepers during the end of summer or beginning of autumn, while its All-Stars remake counterpart, which was likely a TV adaptation, began airing well into the latter, as is quite common for tube-tucked tales. The treasure ships that are formed from magically altered elite Koopa troops likely come about because the suspense felt from audience members causes a relaxing mystical event to occur whenever they currently can't handle watching Mario and Luigi almost get killed by spiky vomit-covered death balls or whatever. Little hub island warp zones were likely implemented within the play over traditional present position pulling pipes, so audience members who were fed up with seeing one particular world could force another act to commence via heckling and or applause. In All Stars, it's simply a complete series DVD menu. The Shell Soccer skilled super siblings squeeze their cranium-covering colorful clothing when crouching from this point onward because being in such a position reminds them of all that supercharged jumping they did back in Subcon, which leads to imagining scenarios involving achieving such ascension while real-world physics are in place. As even in Mushroom World, true gravity doesn't appreciate hats like people do. Power-ups are a bit more plentiful in castles and fortresses this time around because audiences of course want variety in the super skirmishes shown to them. Slopes suddenly started, swiftly sending squatting sewer scum scrapers' shoes into indignant infantries because fans of the horrific horde halting hop harnessing heroes heard stories of them mysteriously sliding across landscapes and wanted to see that in action during their stage debut. The pre-expectation-shattering ability displaying Mario Bros. Adventure gets recreated during their theater-themed throwdown because all those royals who were meant to witness it without getting transformed into mongoose bait or whatever couldn't tolerate missing out on main plot-related things. Thus, a peasant-pleasing puny play was created for when they required an intermission. Lifts are probably relatively common throughout SMB3's world because the play's production staff didn't have insurance good enough to cover themselves if certain tree image connected power-ups didn't function so well. Those coins that pop up in place of foes whenever current conflict conclusion causing cards collide with punctuation punishing punches are likely tips audience members threw at bit players who were impressive enough to give performances on par with the show's stars. Mario and Luigi receive an equivalent amount of coinage as per their contracts. The pauses in this game could represent intermissions brought about by prime play performance problems rather than nobles needing to urinate or whatever. Even the Super Mario Bros. Need to stretch every once in a while. Fire flower flashing fails from this point on. This is probably because their Super 1 and 2 Luminosity loop was the result of an ethereal error caused by Bowser bunking in Fantasy World during those fake fiend-filled fierce feuds. Speaking of that head honcho hoax, Bowser likely doesn't utilize it anymore because with an airship armada at his disposal, he needed to make everybody believe there's literally no escaping him if a fully fearful fungus fleet is desired. Enemies will attack Mario and Luigi whenever they are background-based, but never actually follow them there. This is probably because some scheduled show-spoiling scaly scoundrel servants sought play producer-propelled payment, and attacking the bros under such circumstances would be something that broke a contract. Thus, doing so would mean their ruse was guaranteed to fail. Fire Bros are most likely only map present in World 2 because after stealing that warp whistle from their home turf of Darkland, they decided to move somewhere drastically different, aka a place with much sunlight pouring down at any moment ever. These blazing Bash brothers would have picked the scorching hot desert setting over a tropical area like Waterland so they didn't have to worry about getting defeated by simply being pushed into a nearby lake or river. If those torch-tongue-toting turtles traveled to that land covered by coarse, rough, and irritating stuff via their stolen song-slinging solid straws, then that would mean they either took to, or warp whistles become usable again after a certain amount of time has passed. Perhaps present person placement purging peculiar pipes power piling periods parallel play portions. It would only make sense to not leave out any possibilities for the audience at each showtime. Guards working the night shift at World 44's Fortress deserve to see a plumber propel himself from grassy plains to Arctic tundras via tornado travel after all. Key switches could be the Mushroom Kingdom solution to a potential repeat of SMB1's person-produced property problem. Toads not currently construction cube contained would be shape-shifting spared whenever the bank-breaking buttons got pressed, because their magical whatnot installation involved only getting shot up with mystical forces that avoid affecting animals. The Koopaling commanded cloud cruising crafts come in all shapes and sizes. This is likely because Bowser's builders brought his child chiefs varied designs that would cater to their specific magic wand utilization styles in the rare cases that super sibling stuffed skirmishes left those draining device decorated dens. The power-up suits probably don't get worn inside those toad houses because such places don't have temperature regulation systems installed due to an immense lack of space. Those capability catapulting costumes' apparent inability to get removed and reused could be the result of them losing all power once torn. Attempting to take one off when enemies might show up at any moment would simply be too risky. Those opposition obliterating outfits are likely created from some sort of sorcery-saturated shrubbery that's the mushroom world's equivalent to cotton. After all, flowers and beanstalks couldn't possibly be the only magical plants in a world where tail wagging enables flight. Boss passes, single specimen eating passes, are probably caused by tight territory taking the creatures instinctively carry out. The sizable seafood wouldn't like each other's company when eating because their monstrous mass, of course, comes with an equally meaty metabolism. Thus, they must emit some kind of musk or something that wards off other colossal carps whenever it's feeding time. Stars can kill dry bones and booze because they emit light that guides such creatures to the afterlife. Hammers hamper haunts because of that whole deal with the supernatural being adverse to iron. In most instances, Lakitus lob junk out of their clouds so frantically in order to ensure that they don't suffer hull capacity surpassing related vehicular slowdown. Hence why even pleasant things like coins get regularly tossed out by them. There are quite a few of these comfy cloud-carried creatures present during Mario and Luigi's stage-set sinister scale sporting soldier-smacking showdown. They were likely hired to carry props for everybody. Donut blocks were probably constructed for the sake of adding suspense to scenes that didn't involve adversary abundances. Their inclusion would have been inspired by witness accounts of Bowser blasting below busted bridges and subsequently getting lava dunked upon adjacent acts activation. There was likely a dock near Map 3's castle before Fungal Earth's deliciously daring dive-delivering drama began production, and all those toad houses between there and that sibling strut stop supplying supersized stone were likely part of some swanky tour visitors could pay for when vacationing in the windy-wary wacky water world. Boom Booms probably flail their arms about because it's simply part of the fight choreography they were taught. Perhaps particular poltergeists' platform-pasted position problem popped up because they died in the middle of Bowser's bio-brick building bizarrery rather than afterwards when fire flower favoring fists flew into their stone-stuck soul storage. Those flashing silver bricks that one can throw were likely created to provide Toad guards with some not jump efficiency related firepower so they could more easily defend their homelands instead of solely relying on Plumber-provided protection. Boss basses aren't abundant in World 4 because they can't feast upon the other enemies so easily when a gargantuan girth gap isn't present. Sometimes, simple sorcery-supplied, scorch-sparking spears show shade shifting. This could be because the magic utilized to open and close those trouble-trumping trinket-trapping treasure trunks doesn't mesh so well with fantastic fire flinging. There are flower-mimicking decorations adorning the shrubbery props. Such a design choice likely came about because Mario and Luigi often spouted tales of clouds looking like bushes, an illusion that crept into their minds due to exhaustion. The producers would have then made sure that any gallantly grounded great greenery starkly contrasted with all air-attached aquatic activity amplifiers, as they wished to help Mario and Luigi feel confident about how reality works. Shiny sentient steel slugs stubbornly seek out opposition, unlike their dull doppelgangers that solely shoot straight. They were probably infused with superstar sorcery in an attempt to make them absolutely jump resistant, which obviously didn't work out exactly as intended. What with the thing still getting destroyed and everything, these gun-gushed, gleaming gadgets may have almost achieved always almighty armor activation though, thus they are capable of handling sharp turns without experiencing tremendous strain, which allows them to pursue plumbers pretty potently. The side shift door of World 4 could have been built by filling some fine oak with magical energy siphoned from super shrooms. Behemoth baddie banishing provides points equal to small scoundrel squashing. This would obviously be because their plumber parish probability pumping plumpness is balanced out by making them easier to hit. Bowser's airships are quite well equipped in the flamethrower department, especially World 6's. This is likely a result of the Koopa King's R&D team needing to prevent a full fleet failure forging frost formation from occurring when traveling exceptionally high but not having enough budget for both comfort-enhancing luxury features and weaponry. Kuribo/Goomba shoe was probably a leftover piece from an unfinished costume that got snagged once the acting apocalypse activated. The magic balls Boom Boom beating brings about probably don't work exclusively as oddly shaped keys. They very well could be some sort of specialty sorcery supplying spooky spheres scoundrels sent super sibling stopping security setting, thus trashing them totals those tall traversal trumping trinkets. Supernatural stone shielded societal suffering stoppers scoundrel subduing solely succeeds when downward movement is initiated. This indicates that the magical marble Mario and Luigi can coat themselves with is not indestructible, but merely strong enough to survive high-velocity collisions without crumbling. The stripes in Ice World's level backgrounds could house some kind of advanced heating system that's much smaller and incredibly difficult to transform into a fortress visit ruining piece of furniture. Those superstar stuffed stone storage strings some stages sport may be the result of power-up containment spells occasionally experiencing magical errors that provide their contents with an added bonus of mystical manicurist monitored magical might maximization. So, anybody who grabs one of these supreme sorcery saturated spiky shapes will always get the best block bashing benefit until the incandescent invulnerability runs out. Some shops showing shade shifts was likely caused by production people deciding that certain consumer caretakers confines must stand out in order to draw Mario Bro attention and give all attendees an exciting spectacle once eye-exacting environment established everything exploration ensued. Fireflowers feature varying petal paint jobs that differ depending on position and adaptation. This is likely because Mario and Luigi gave different accounts of their physical characteristics based on what could be gleamed with all that flashing going on. Pipe Maze is probably the main manufacturer of those wonderful warp wells. Its stages would of course be R&D workers' stations whenever there isn't an exceedingly extravagant entertainment event going on. World 6 and 7's Toad houses both keep a fairly sizable stock of hammer suits on hand. In the former's case, Gizmo Guardian gear gets gathered en masse, so regular cold crystal crushing can come about. The latter's attack allowing apparatus activating a tire abundance is of course caused by pipe maintenance related needs. Boom Boom's attack pattern involves a lot of plainly telegraphed hopping and or slowly swooping downward into effective head squash enabling positions, which makes it especially easy for plumbers equipped with either tail accessories or full-on costumes to score hits. This was of course an intentional part of their choreography, as such movement plans allow for several signature super sorcery showcasing scenes. Those floaty temporary see-through clone block manufacturing decorated platforms likely utilize a variant of moisture metamorphosis magic that turns dew, oil, and what have you into some kind of tangible astral projection. The white platforms could be incomplete props that possess backstage leading paths, which are meant to make finishing them easier for maintenance. They aren't colored because in Mushroom World, paint jobs are a sign of no more prop production needing to be done. Hurled hammers hamper healthiness of partially pipe-sponge piranha plants because the problem-pounding projectiles cause such intense vibrations when clashing with all those other metal mounds that anyone or thing inside gets torn to shreds in an ever-so-violent way. The frog suit appears to be a more enhanced version of safe deep-sea exploration-enabling gear, which grants anybody wearing one underwater mobility so great that magic elevators aren't necessary. Grand gloves gleefully grab guests gathering on those torch-tagged twinkly tiles. These things very well could be some sort of spell-summoned sinister soldier scouting servants Shelled Supreme Sorcerer sends out to gather young Dark World natives who are just wandering around and force them into a Koopa military training course so they can be instilled with Bowser-directed loyalty at the earliest age possible. Those hovering hand-hosting horror holds have every variety of baddie bro within them. This total terror tribe toting could very well be the result of Bowser wanting to ensure that his potential recruits would always encounter at least one top-tier turtle troop during their first Super Sibling Squashing Squadron sighting and wind up enlisting immediately after experiencing either excellence eyeballing evoked excitement or fully formed ferocity fanned fright. There are brown warp pipes present on Dark World's map, while the actual course-located ones display black paint jobs. This transportation tube color contradicting could very well be a case of tactical decorating, as the drab distance-destroying devices displayed outside, being easy to see in light-lacking land, wouldn't matter much, since Bowser doesn't care which stage intruders die in. On that note, the stage-situated shadowy spot-shifting sewage-slinging steel straw's shade would be deliberate so that pipe-placed piranhas could collect camouflage-created competition crushes. The abundance of booze in Dark World's outdoor stages could very well have been caused by a mass toad death that occurred while Bowser was experimenting with transforming people into construction materials and oddly named greenery. There aren't many numbered stages in Dark World. This is likely because every spot was meant to be fortress-having, but the last few couldn't get built before Mario and Luigi showed up. Sand submerged savage salad situations may be caused by seed-carrying Koopa Troop allies occasionally having trouble locating those night sky matching tubular wormhole vessels, just like the Mario Bros. They simply accidentally planted piranha plants in warp pipe-sized ground depressions. The individual portraying that ill-tempered sky lamp is probably covered by magically fortified heat-resistant garb, hence why fireballs fail at agitated atmosphere adornment annihilation, but hammers don't. Those sibling suffering supplying sparkly spheres that revolve around the red orbs in castles and fortresses might be made up of pure magical energy siphoned from Fantasy World. Their circle-cycling crimson cores could be some kind of mystical force vessels regularly utilized for spells more complex than baby burner bombarding. Those giant mushrooms near Bowser's Castle might be a rare variant of the poison ones from SMB2, The Lost Levels. Somehow, lasers lose all killing power whenever capped crusaders crouch. This is likely because the sci-fi sorcery stuffed statues sending them out rely upon their mystically generated vision to produce effective attacks. Thus, they can't create killing-capable craft cutters when targets aren't truly line-of-sight located. Hammers can destroy lava pit-originating fireballs, but not the ones coming out of Bowser and Piranha Plant's mouths. This is probably because the magic that allows creatures to breathe-spit flames like that involves Mushroom World physics rewrites, which involve extinguishing getting all wonky. Bowser's throne room or whatever possesses freakishly frail flooring. This crumbling concrete's crappy construction cause could have been a Magic Koopa or whatever messing up some spell that's meant to break bricks beneath bros by accidentally thinking about the Koopa King too much when casting it. After all, it is quite difficult for many to not focus on their boss when fulfilling important work-related tasks. The preposterously puffy, pee-promoting power opinion pile Plumber's pack with them on replays of the NES version may have been handed out by Princess Peach as a way to reward audience members who stuck around until everything was over with a chance at glancing set sights they couldn't have witnessed beforehand. The complete capability converting content carryover contained in All-Stars is likely just an attempt at redoing sewer-savvy siblings starring super shows without any non-scripted scuffles happening. Mario and Luigi being homicide handing hammer holding at the beginning would be a pretty good dastardly deed-doing dude deterrent after all. The flashy flooring may have been originally intended to perfectly background blend so that Mario and Luigi would appear as if they are achieving even more ludicrous jumping feats than usual. Game present contrasting cardboard cutout glyph colors were of course intended to help guide the bouncy bros until choreography memorization occurred. There are quite a few number 3 references contained within this game. The in-universe reasoning for this very well could be Plumber pack plot preferring producers wanting to make several number of acts highlighting gags throughout their masterpiece. P-Wings may have been developed by the play staff so every set piece could be examined over a short period of time. Bowser's heist of the Royal Reality Restructuring Rods was likely carried out both for domain defense diminishing sake and because his kid commanders couldn't use fire breath magic yet. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.